Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Corey Bennett. I am 32 years old, and I will never forget the way that notification sound sliced through the conference room presentation like a knife. The lights were dimmed, the projector was humming, and the regional manager was droning on about quarterly growth projections in a hotel ballroom in Atlanta. Everyone around me was focused on the slides. My phone lit up on the table in front of me. A text message from my wife, Keisha. I figured it was the usual quick check-in, maybe asking how the trip was going or reminding me not to forget to pick up something on the way home when the conference ended. During the break, I stepped out into the hallway with the rest of the crowd. People chatted in little clusters, comparing notes and complaining about the coffee. I glanced down and opened the message. Just for your information, I told everyone we were separated for now. A break just to figure things out. That was it. No greeting. No build-up. No soft landing. I read it twice. Then a third time. There was no, we need to talk. Or, can we discuss this when you get back? Or even, I am feeling confused about us. Just a flat announcement, as if she were telling me she had rescheduled a dentist appointment. I was 300 miles from home in Charlotte. Keisha knew exactly where I was. She knew I would be in Atlanta for 3 more days, locked into back-to-back sessions and networking events. And she chose this exact moment, in the middle of my work trip, to drop that bomb into my life. My thumb hovered over the screen. A big part of me wanted to call immediately, demand an explanation, ask what she thought she was doing. I wanted to hear her voice, to find some hint that this was a misunderstanding. But something stopped me. It was the phrasing. Told everyone. Past tense. Already done. Not, I am thinking about telling people. Not, how do you feel if I tell people we were taking a break? She had already done it. No request. No invitation to give input. Just a status update about our marriage that she had already pushed out to the world. I stared at that phrase until the letters blurred. Finally, I typed one word. Thanks. Then I locked my phone, slid it into my pocket, and walked back into the conference room. The presenter was talking about forecasts and trends, but I heard almost nothing. My colleagues laughed at a joke about budgets. I did not even register the punchline. That is the thing about being blindsided. Your mind frantically starts rewinding recent history on fast forward, looking for clues you missed, moments that now make a different kind of sense. Once I started looking, the signs were everywhere, scattered through the last 6 months like crumbs. 3 months earlier, Keisha had joined a new gym on the other side of town. It was more of a boutique fitness studio than a regular gym, with trendy branding and a juice bar in the lobby. She started going 5 times a week, sometimes twice a day. I need to work on myself, she had said, tying her wrap around her waist as she stood at the door, keys in hand. I've been feeling off. I just want to feel healthier. I had smiled, told her I was proud of her for prioritizing her health. I even joked that soon she would be outlifting me. I did not question it. 6 weeks ago, she started a standing girls' night every Thursday. At first it sounded harmless. We never make time for our friends, she said while scrolling through her phone. We all agree to do a weekly dinner or something. Nothing crazy. Then the evenings grew later and later. She would come back past midnight, sometimes with a faint smell of wine and unfamiliar perfume clinging to her clothes. Do you have to be out so late? I had asked once, trying to keep my voice neutral. It is just dinner, right? She had stiffened immediately. So now you're clocking me. Keisha had said, standing in the kitchen with her arms folded. I deserve time with my friends. I'm not doing anything wrong. I had backed off, hands raised. I did not say you were doing anything wrong. I told her. I just miss you in the evenings. She had rolled her eyes, grabbed her bag, and left. I had told myself it was stress, that she needed an outlet. Marriage, I reminded myself, is about trust, not interrogation. A month before that text, I started noticing how she angled her phone away from me. It was subtle at first. She would tilt the screen just slightly when a message came in. Then she started taking calls in another room, closing the bedroom door, lowering her voice. The screen brightness on her phone was turned way down, dim enough that I could not read anything when it lit up. I had watched her once from the hallway as she typed while biting her lip, and when she saw me, she jumped slightly and locked the phone. Everything okay? I had asked. Fine, she said a little too quickly. Work group chat. Boring stuff. 2 weeks before the conference, We had plans to have dinner together on Saturday night. I had even made a reservation at this little spot in uptown Charlotte that she liked. An hour before we were supposed to leave, she texted me from the bedroom. "Cannot do dinner tonight. My friend is having a crisis. I need to go be with her." When I suggested we reschedule for the following night, she said she already had plans. I had let it slide. Again, in my mind, I thought I was being a good husband. I gave her space. I trusted her. I believed that marriage meant not interrogating your partner about every little change in their schedule. Looking back, it felt less like I'd been giving her space and more like I'd been handing her rope, and she had used that rope to quietly strangle our marriage while I was busy reassuring myself that everything was fine. That evening at the conference, the dinner was torture. Colleagues joked about client demands and travel mishaps, and someone down the table launched into a long story about a flight delay. I sat there pushing mashed potatoes around my plate, nodding at the right moments. At one point, a coworker named Michelle leaned toward me and asked in a low voice, "You all right, Corey? You look like you just got bad news." I forced a weak smile. "Might be coming down with something," I said. "Long week." Back in my hotel room, I finally took my phone out again. No new messages from Keisha. No follow-up. No, "How are you taking this?" Or, "We should talk when you have a minute." In her mind, the conversation was already over. She had made her announcement, and as far as she was concerned, my reaction was not part of the process. I opened a social media app. There she was at the top of my feed. It was a new post from 30 minutes earlier. A photo of Keisha laughing with 3 of her friends at a trendy restaurant in Charlotte. Glasses on the table, plates half finished. Everyone leaning together like they were in a lifestyle commercial. The caption read, "Sometimes you just need a reset with your girls." A reset. That was what she was calling it. I zoomed in without entirely meaning to, and there it was, her left hand visible on the table bare. No wedding ring. My stomach dropped. I scanned the comments. Her sister, Tanika, had liked it. Her mother had commented a line of heart emojis, and "So proud of you." Some friend whose name I did not recognize had written, "You deserve this, girl." I stared at that comment. Deserve what exactly? I muttered to the empty room. The answer seemed obvious, and it did not include me. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed for a long time, the city lights flickering faintly beyond the window. I did not panic. I did not cry. Instead, my mind went cold and clear. Keisha had framed this as a break to figure things out. But the timing, the way she had executed it, the public announcement before even giving me the courtesy of a real conversation, the celebratory dinner with friends, all of it added up to something very different from confusion. It looked like a person who had already made up her mind and wanted alignment from her circle before telling her own husband. What I saw was not someone trying to decide whether to stay. It was someone who wanted permission to do whatever she had already been doing, with a safety net in case it did not work out. The words "for now" in her message were her insurance policy. Keep me on standby while she explored her options. That thought settled over me like a heavy blanket. I realized I had a decision to make too. My phone buzzed. A text from my older brother, Devin. "Hey, just heard from Mom. What's going on with you and Keisha?" I stared at that line, jaw tightening. So Keisha had told my family before she even told me. Perfect. I did not respond to him. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop at the little hotel desk and started making a list. Joint bank accounts, lease agreement, shared bills, insurance policies, retirement accounts, subscription services. I was not being vindictive. I was being practical. If she wanted a separation, she was going to get one. But not her version, where I sat around in limbo while she played the field with a safety net waiting at home. She said for now. That night, in that Atlanta hotel room, I decided that my version was going to be forever. I stared at the word separation in my notes and then typed divorce beneath it. The word looked harsh, but also looked honest. The next morning, I got up, showered, put on my suit, and went to the conference sessions as if nothing were wrong. Technically, nothing had changed yet in the legal sense. My wife had made a decision about how she wanted to present our marriage to the world. I was simply planning my response. During lunch, while others compared hotel breakfasts, I stepped outside with my phone. I called our landlord's office, a small property management company run by a man named Calvin Shepard. I reached his voicemail first and left a message saying I needed to discuss our lease when I got back to town. That was time sensitive. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I did not mention divorce. I did not mention Keisha. Professional. Polite. When I hung up, I called an old friend from college, a man named Lawrence Sterling who had gone on to law school and now practiced family law in Charlotte. We had not talked in months, but he picked up on the third ring. Corey? Long time. What is going on? He asked. I exhaled. I need some advice about divorce proceedings in our state, I said. There was a pause. You and Keisha? He said quietly. Apparently, I replied. Do you have time this week? Lawrence did not ask for drama, did not press for messy details. Yes, he said. Come by the office Friday afternoon. We will figure it out. Practical help. That was exactly what I needed. I went back into the conference, smiled when expected, nodded through presentations, exchanged business cards. No one looking at me would have guessed that my marriage was dissolving in real time, 300 miles away. That evening, back in my hotel room, I opened social media again, even though I knew it was a bad idea. Another post. This time Keisha was in leggings and a tank top at a yoga studio, standing with the same group of friends in front of a wall mural. The caption read, Day 1 of my wellness journey. Comments flooded in. So proud of you. Put yourself first. This is your year. I stared at those words. Wellness journey. She was already rebranding the destruction of our marriage as self-care and growth. It was surreal, like watching an advertisement about my own life that did not include me. One of her friends wrote, Proud of you for putting yourself first. And I almost laughed. My phone suddenly felt heavy in my hand. I closed the app, turned the phone off completely, and sat in silence. She wanted a break to figure things out. Fine. I would give her clarity. Clear, permanent, no going back clarity. If for now was her phrase, mine was going to be no more. I lay awake for a long time that night, staring at the hotel ceiling. When I finally slept, it was the exhausted, dreamless kind of sleep that feels like black water. Friday morning, after the closing session, I checked out of the hotel. 3 days of silence from Keisha. Not a single follow-up message. Not one, are you okay? Or, we should talk when you get home. Just radio silence while she posted smiling photos from her wellness retreat and dinners. The 4-hour drive back to Charlotte felt unusually long. I did not play music. No podcasts. Just me, the highway, and the steady thrum of the engine while my thoughts ran through everything that needed to happen next. I did not go straight to the apartment. Instead, I drove to the small office building where Calvin Shepard ran his property management company. I had called ahead that morning, and he agreed to meet during his lunch break. His office was modest but organized, with framed photos of various rental properties on the walls. He stood when I walked in, a tall black man in his 50s wearing a neat button-down shirt. Corey, right? He said, extending a hand. Come on in. What can I do for you? I sat in the chair across from his desk. I need to terminate our lease, I said. Give proper notice. Do everything by the book. It is a 30-day notice, correct? He nodded slowly, studying my face. That is correct, he said. Mind if I ask what is going on? You two have been good tenants for 3 years. I swallowed. Our marriage is ending, I said plainly. Keisha announced a separation while I was out of town. I'm making it permanent. I need to start fresh. Calvin leaned back in his chair. I'm sorry to hear that, he said. You sure you do not want to keep the place? We could put just your name on the lease if that would help. I shook my head. I appreciate that, but no. There are too many memories here for me. A clean break is better. He pulled up our lease on his computer. All right. I will need you to fill out a termination notice since both of you are on the lease, he explained. Technically, I should notify Keisha as well. That is fine, I said. Actually, I would prefer that you did. She is at a yoga retreat this week with her friends. She should be back by Tuesday. Calvin raised an eyebrow slightly. Yoga retreat, he repeated. Yes, I said. He printed the paperwork, and I signed everywhere he indicated. He made a copy for his records and handed one to me. You will have until the end of next month to move out, he said. If you need a positive reference for a new place, let me know. You have always paid on time. I stood up. Thank you, Mr. Shepard, I said. I appreciate you making this easy. We shook hands, and I left. First step completed. Next stop was the bank. I pulled into the branch we had used since our wedding. The same teller who had helped us open our joint account years before greeted me with a practiced smile. Good afternoon, she said. What can we help you with today? I need to talk to someone about account changes, I replied. She directed me to a desk near the back, where a woman in her 50s with warm eyes introduced herself. "I am Patricia Vaughn," she said. "How can I assist you today?" I sat down and folded my hands on the desk. "My wife and I have a joint checking account," I said. "I need to remove my name from it and open a new account in my name alone." Patricia's expression softened a bit. She had clearly handled this scenario before. "I can help with that," she said. "Just so you are aware, once we remove your name, you will have no access to those funds or to any account activity going forward." I nodded. "I understand," I said. "Before that happens, I would like to transfer exactly half of the current balance to a new account in my name. Is that possible?" "Absolutely," Patricia said. "That is actually quite common in situations like this." She typed quickly, then looked up at me. "It appears there is about $4,200 in the joint checking account right now." I nodded again. "Then $2,100 to the new account, please," I said. "All right," she replied. "Let me get that set up for you." For the next 30 minutes, we worked through the process. She opened a new checking account and a new savings account in my name, transferred exactly half of every joint balance into them, then removed my name entirely from the joint accounts. When she was done, Patricia slid some temporary checks and a new debit card sleeve across the desk. "Your permanent card will arrive in 7 to 10 business days," she said. "Is there anything else I can help you with?" I thought for a moment. "We also have a joint savings account," I said. "Same process, please." She checked the balance. "There is $6,800 in that account," she said. "Would you like $3,400 transferred to your new savings account?" "Yes," I said, and then removed my access. When everything was finalized, she gave me a sympathetic look. "I am sorry you are going through this," she said, "but you are handling it very clearly." I thanked her and left, stepping back out into the sharp afternoon sun. Sitting in my car, I checked my phone again, even though I knew there was no reason to expect anything from Keisha. Still nothing. No message, no missed call. There was, however, a new social media post from 2 hours earlier. Yet another group photo from the retreat, this time at a juice bar. Everyone held green smoothies, smiling into the camera. The caption, "Nourishing body and soul." I stared at it for a second, then put the phone away. I drove back to our apartment complex, the place that had been our home for 3 years, and now felt like a stage waiting for the final act of a play. Our unit was on the second floor, a corner with good natural light in the afternoons. I had always liked that about it. When I opened the door, everything looked exactly as I'd left it 4 days earlier. Dishes in the sink from Keisha's last meal before leaving, her yoga mat rolled up by the door, a small pile of unopened mail on the counter. I walked into the living room, took a beer from the refrigerator, and sat down on the couch. My eyes moved slowly around the room. The coffee table we had found together at a thrift store on a rainy Saturday. The bookshelf that had taken us 3 hours to assemble because we kept putting the pieces together in the wrong order. The framed photo from our wedding day hanging on the wall, both of us laughing at something the photographer had said. That photo bothered me now. We had looked so certain, so sure that forever meant the same thing to both of us. It was painful to realize that forever can have an expiration date when one person silently decides to renegotiate the terms. I stood, took the frame off the wall, and carried it to the hall closet. I did not throw it away. I did not smash it dramatically. I simply set it face down on a shelf where I would not have to look at it every day. Then I went back to the living room and pulled out the file box where we kept paperwork. I found the lease and highlighted the termination clause. I pulled out our insurance documents and made a note to call about separating policies. I spread old bank statements across the coffee table and really looked at them for the first time in months. Patterns jumped out immediately. Keisha's personal spending had increased significantly over the last half year, especially at restaurants and shops near her new gym. At the same time, her contributions to our shared expenses had quietly decreased. There were multiple automated teller machine withdrawals, $200 here, $300 there. Cash that left no paper trail. Meanwhile, I had been covering most of the rent, utilities, and groceries. The stable one. The constant. I stared at the numbers until they blurred, feeling a dull ache build in my chest. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from Devin. "Mom is asking questions. What should I tell her?" I typed back. "Tell her I am handling it. I will call her this weekend." A moment later, he replied, "All right. Are you okay, though?" I stared at that question for a long second, then typed yes. Actually better than okay. I am making moves. Devin wrote back. That is what I like to hear. Let me know if you need help. I put the phone screen down and spent the rest of the evening organizing. I did not start packing everything yet, but I made mental notes. What was mine before the marriage? What was hers? What we had bought together and could split or leave. Books, electronics, furniture. I walked slowly through each room, imagining it without my things. Around 9 o'clock, I ordered takeout, sat on the couch, and ate mechanically while some television show played in the background. I barely registered any of it. My thoughts kept circling back to that first message. Just for your information, I told everyone we are separated for now. The casual cruelty of that wording amazed me. Not even the decency of a phone call. Not a private conversation in our own living room. Just a text notification popping up while I was hundreds of miles away, surrounded by strangers, unable to respond in person. Then she disappeared to a yoga retreat, posting about her reset and wellness journey while I rearranged my life. Her friends probably thought she was brave for choosing herself. They did not know they were applauding over the rubble of my marriage. What she did not realize yet was that I was choosing myself too. My version did not involve inspirational quotes or carefully staged photos of smoothies and sunset meditations. My version involved termination notices, separate bank accounts, conversations with lawyers, and a clean, definitive exit. She wanted for now. I lay in the guest room that night on the firm mattress, surrounded by neutral-smelling sheets, and decided she was about to learn the difference between a pause button and a stop button. Saturday morning, I woke up with a strangely clear head. There was no dramatic emotional wave, just a straightforward sense of purpose. I made coffee and started going through the apartment with a notebook. In the living room, the television was mine from before we got married. The sound system had been a wedding gift from my side of the family. The couch was a joint purchase. We could split it or I could leave it behind and buy a new one. The coffee table had come from Keisha's old apartment. I wrote it down as hers. In the kitchen, most of the appliances were things we had bought together: blender, toaster, air fryer. All replaceable. The pots and pans were hers. I still had my old set in storage at my parents' house if I needed them. Plates, glasses, bakeware. None of it felt worth fighting over. In the bedroom, the furniture was mostly hers. I listed only my clothes and a few keepsakes. The extra quilts my grandmother had made for us were non-negotiable in my mind. I wrote them firmly under my column. I was not being petty. I was being practical. Things could be replaced. Peace of mind cannot. Around 11 o'clock, my phone rang. My mother, Angela. I took a breath and answered. "Hey, Mom," I said. "Honey, I have been worried sick," she said immediately. "Devin said something is going on with you and Keisha." "What happened?" I stared out the window at the parking lot while I spoke. "She decided we need a separation," I said. "Texted me about it while I was at the conference. Then she went on a yoga retreat with her friends. No conversation. No warning. Just an announcement." There was a moment of silence on the line. Then, "She texted you?" my mother asked, her voice rising slightly. "That is how she told you?" "Yes," I said. "And she told everyone else before she told me." My mother exhaled sharply. "That girl," she said, anger creeping into her tone. "After everything you have done for her. You supported her when she wanted to change careers. You were patient when she quit her job to figure things out. You did not complain when you were carrying most of the bills. And this is what she does." "It is all right, Mom," I said. "I am handling it." "How are you handling it?" she asked. "Are you really okay?" I looked at the notes in my hand. "Honestly, yes," I said. "I am terminating the lease, separating finances, lining up a lawyer." She wanted a break. "She is getting a permanent one." My mother's voice grew firm. "Good," she said. "You do not deserve to be treated like some backup option. Your father and I never fully understood her decisions anyway. Always so focused on herself." I could not help smiling a little despite everything. "Do not hold back, Mom," I said. "Tell me what you truly think." She chuckled softly. "I am sorry, baby," she said. "I know you loved her. But she's been acting strange for months. Even I noticed it at Thanksgiving. Always on her phone, barely talking to the family. Your Aunt Sharon commented on it after you two left." I nodded, even though she could not see me. "I guess I was the last one to see it," I said quietly. "That is because you trust people," she replied. "Do not let this make you hard, but do not let anybody treat you like an option again." We talked for another 20 minutes. She offered to help me move when I found a new place. She reminded me that I could stay with them temporarily if I needed to, even though we both knew I would not. I was 32 years old. Moving back with my parents would have felt like going backward in every possible way. After we hung up, I went back to organizing. I had picked up some boxes from a storage facility on my way into town the day before, and I began packing my personal items. Books, old photographs from before the marriage, a few kitchen tools I knew I wanted to keep. Around 3 in the afternoon, I drove downtown to meet Lawrence at his office. His practice was in a converted historic house with a small wooden sign out front. He met me in the lobby, taller than I remembered, wearing a dark shirt with no tie. "It is good to see you, man," he said, giving me a brief hug, even if the circumstances are not great. We walked back to his office, and he motioned for me to sit while he pulled out a legal pad. "All right," he said. "Walk me through everything from the top." I told him the whole story. The text of the conference, the "for now" wording, the retreat, the social media posts, the lease termination, the separate bank accounts. He listened without interrupting, just nodding occasionally and jotting down dates and key details. When I finished, he tapped his pen against the pad. "First of all," he said, "you handled this remarkably well so far. Separating finances and giving proper notice on the lease were smart moves." "I figured as much," I said. "What now?" Lawrence leaned back. "In this state, you can file for divorce based on separation," he explained. "You do not have to prove fault. Her behavior could certainly be raised if things get contested, but legally you can move forward without making this a blame game. The question is what you want." I exhaled. "I do not want a drawn-out fight," I said. "I just want out. Clean. Fast. Done." "Then we file a no-fault petition, citing irreconcilable differences," he said. "How long have you been married?" 5 years next month," I said. "Any children?" "No." "Any property besides the apartment you are renting?" "No. Both our cars are in our own names. Mine is paid off. Hers still has a loan." Lawrence nodded and made more notes. "Joint debts?" he asked. "Mostly separate credit cards," I said. "She has student loans from graduate school, but those are hers alone. We have a little savings. That is about it." "In that case," Lawrence said, "this should be fairly straightforward if she cooperates. We will need full financial disclosures, but with no children and no house, we are not untangling too much. This could be wrapped up in a few months." I looked at the framed certificates on his wall. "And if she does not cooperate?" I asked. "Then it takes longer and costs more," he said honestly. "But, given what you have told me, my guess is she will either try to reconcile when she realizes you are serious or sign quickly to avoid looking bad. People who like to control the narrative often hate public conflict." I sat quietly for a moment. "When can we start?" I asked. "I can have the paperwork ready by Wednesday," Lawrence said. "You will need to be officially separated first, in the sense that one of you has moved out or is clearly in the process of leaving." "Has that happened yet?" "Not yet," I said. "She comes back from her retreat on Tuesday. I am planning to make my exit clear then." Lawrence nodded. "Start looking for a new place this week," he said. "Once you are physically separated and I have your financial documents, we will file. She will be served, and then we will see how she responds." We spent another hour going over details, how to handle retirement accounts, what to do if she tried to run up debt between now and the filing, how to document everything. By the time I left his office, I had a roadmap. It did not make the situation pleasant, but it made it manageable. On the way home, I stopped at a storage facility and rented a small 10x10 climate-controlled unit. I spent the next 2 hours moving boxes of my personal items into it. I did not touch the furniture yet, but creating space in the apartment made it clear that I was already halfway out the door. That evening, after a shower and a simple dinner, I made the mistake of checking Keisha's social media again. Another post from the retreat, a photo of a sunset over a wooded ridge, her silhouette in yoga pose in the corner of the frame. The caption was some quotation about letting go of things that no longer serve you. The irony was almost too much to take. She thought she was letting go of me. She had no idea I had already emotionally walked away from her. Sunday followed a similar pattern. I packed, sorted, and planned. I called a couple of close friends and gave them a brief, edited version of what was happening. Most of them were shocked, then supportive. One friend, Reggie, was blunt. "Honestly, I saw this coming," he said over the phone. "At that barbecue last month, she was on her phone the entire time. When you went to grab more drinks, I heard her tell somebody she felt trapped. The word hit me like a slap. Trapped, I repeated. That is what she said. Her word, not mine, Reggie said. I did not say anything because I figured it was not my place to stir things up. But it did not sound like somebody who was committed to working things out. I rubbed my temples. Well, she's about to feel very untrapped, I said. Reggie sighed. I know this hurts, he said, but you deserve someone who does not treat you like a safety net. Let me know when you are ready to grab dinner and get out of the house. We made tentative plans for the following week. Monday morning, I went to work as usual. Routine felt like a life raft. I answered emails, focused on project deadlines, and sat through meetings without mentioning my personal life. Around lunchtime, my manager, Mr. Thompson, asked me to step into his office. Everything okay, Corey? He asked, closing the door behind us. You seemed a little off at the conference. I decided not to dodge. My wife told me she wants a separation. I said, I'm in the process of getting divorced, but it is handled. It will not affect my performance. Mr. Thompson's expression softened. I'm sorry to hear that, he said. If you need some time off or flexibility for appointments, let me know. You have earned that. I nodded. I appreciate it, I said. Honestly, work is a welcome distraction right now. That evening, back at the apartment, I did something I had been avoiding. I scrolled back through months of text messages between Keisha and me. The shift was obvious once I looked with clear eyes. 6 months earlier, our conversations were full of little moments, random observations, funny memes, suggestions for date nights, silly arguments about what to watch. 4 months ago, the messages from her grew shorter, more functional, less playful. 2 months ago, she basically stopped initiating conversations altogether. She would respond to my messages, but rarely started one herself, and her replies were often just a word or two. She had been checking out for half a year, and I had missed it because I wanted to believe everything was fine. I stared at the screen for a long time, then deleted the entire thread. Tuesday afternoon, I was at my desk at work when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let go to voicemail. A minute later, I listened. It was Calvin. Hey, Corey, just wanted to give you a heads up, he said. I called Keisha about the lease termination like we discussed. She seemed pretty surprised. Anyway, she has my number if she needs to talk. Take care. I ended the message and sat back, feeling a slow exhale leave my chest. The first domino had fallen. 20 minutes later, my phone started vibrating repeatedly. 7 missed calls from Keisha in 10 minutes. Then the messages began to arrive in quick succession. What did you do? She wrote. The landlord just called me. What is this about terminating our lease? A moment later. Are you serious right now? Then, we need to talk. Call me back. Followed by, this is insane. You cannot just make decisions like this without talking to me. That last one made me laugh out loud. A coworker glanced over, and I waved a hand to signal I was fine. I let an hour pass before I responded. I wanted her to sit with the consequences of her own words. Finally, I typed, you said we were separated. I am finalizing the logistics. You have 30 days. Almost immediately, my phone rang again. I declined the call. She called again. I declined it a second time. Another message arrived. I did not mean we had to move out. Where am I supposed to go? I replied, that is something you should have thought about before announcing a separation to everyone without discussing it with me first. There was a long pause. Then she wrote, this is not what I meant, and you know it. I answered, you texted me that we are separated. I am treating it like a separation. What exactly did you expect? The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she wrote, can we please just talk about this like adults? I replied, sure. I will be home around 6. We can talk then. Then I put my phone on silent, closed my email, and finished my task for the day with an odd sense of calm. I left work at 5:30 and picked up food from a sandwich shop near our apartment. When I walked in at 6:15, Keisha was sitting on the couch in her yoga retreat clothes, hair pulled back, face bare. She looked smaller than usual, like someone had let the air out of her. She jumped to her feet when she saw me. Finally, she said, I've been calling you all day. I set the food bag on the counter. I was at work, I said. I turned my phone on silent. Are you really going to act like this is just another day? She demanded. Calvin said you were terminating the lease. What are you doing? I opened the bag and took out my sandwich calmly. Do you want half? I asked. Are you kidding me? She said. No, I'm not hungry. I want to know what is going on. I sat at the kitchen table, unwrapped my sandwich, and took a bite before answering. What is going on is exactly what you said, I replied. We are separated. I am making it official. That is not what I meant, Keisha said, her voice rising. Then what did you mean? I asked. Explain it to me. She crossed her arms. I meant we needed some space, she said. Time apart to figure things out. Not this. She gestured around the apartment, as if my actions had rearranged the walls. So your idea of space, I said, was to announce to everyone that we were separated, go on a wellness retreat with your friends, and then come back and decide how you feel while I wait quietly in the background. It was not a vacation, she said sharply. It was a wellness retreat. I needed it. I nodded slowly. Right. A wellness retreat, I said. My mistake. I took another bite, chewed, swallowed. So, what was the plan after the retreat? I asked. You come home, we sit on this couch, and you tell me whether you have decided to keep our marriage. She stared at me like I was being unreasonable. We were supposed to talk, she said. We were supposed to figure out what we both want. You did not ask what I wanted before telling my family, your family, and all of our friends that we are separated, I said. Why would my opinion matter now? Keisha blinked, tears beginning to form. Because we are married, she said. I stood, wiped my hands on a napkin, and looked at her. We were married, I said quietly. Past tense. You ended that when you sent the text. I'm just handling the paperwork. Her mouth fell open. You cannot be serious, she said. I have never been more serious in my life, I replied. She sat down heavily on the couch, hands trembling slightly. This is crazy, she said. You are being ridiculous. People take breaks all the time. They work things out. I studied her for a moment. When did you decide you wanted this separation? I asked. I did not decide anything, she said, looking away. I just needed space to think. When did you decide you needed space? I pressed. She hesitated. I do not know. A few weeks ago, maybe. I raised an eyebrow. And in those few weeks, I said, did it ever cross your mind that you should talk to me before announcing it to everyone else? I was going to talk to you, she said quietly. When? I asked. After the retreat? After you had already told everybody and created this story where you are the brave woman choosing herself. She flinched. That is not what this is, she said. You know that is not fair. You know it is not fair. I replied. Getting a text message in the middle of a work conference 300 miles from home telling me our marriage is on hold. She covered her face with her hands. When she looked up again, tears streaked her cheeks. I did not say it was over, Keisha said. I said we are separated for now. I nodded. And I am making it forever, I said. Problem solved. You wanted space to figure out if you still wanted me. I did not want to be with someone who needs a retreat and the approval of her friends to decide if I am worth keeping. She shook her head frantically. We can fix this, she said. We can go to counseling. We can take it slow. Please, Corey, do not do this. Her voice cracked on my name. No, I said. Just like that, she asked. Just like that, I replied. I have already talked to a lawyer. Papers will be filed by the end of the week. She stared at me, stunned. You talked to a lawyer? She repeated. Of course I did, I said. Did you think I was going to sit around waiting for you to decide if I am still your first choice? You made a choice. I'm making mine. She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. This is not what I wanted, she said. I just needed to breathe. I stepped back. You wanted permission to live like you were single while keeping me on standby, I said. Do not pretend this is about needing to breathe. That is not true, she said, her eyes filling again. Then explain it, I said. She opened her mouth, closed it, and no explanation came. Exactly, I said. I grabbed a duffel bag from the bedroom closet and began throwing clothes into it. She followed me to the doorway. Where are you going? She asked. I'm staying at Reggie's place tonight, I said. Do not worry. I will be back for the rest of my things. You will barely notice I am gone. This is ridiculous, she said. I stopped in the doorway and turned to look at her one last time that night. You said separated, I told her. I'm just making sure we are on the same page about what that really means. She stood there silent as I walked past her, out of the apartment and down the stairs. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. For the first time, I saw the realization on her face that for now might have just ended. The next 2 weeks were a blur of logistics and strained, mostly one-sided messages from Keisha that I rarely answered. I stayed with Reggie while looking for my own place. She stayed in the apartment, calling and texting to ask if we could talk, if we could slow down, if we could at least try counseling. I responded only when necessary about practical matters. "You are punishing me," she wrote once. "No," I responded. "I am setting a boundary." She did not reply to that. On Friday afternoon, her sister Tanika called. I answered because I had always liked her. "Hey," she said cautiously. "How are you holding up?" "I am fine," I said. "Confused, mostly, but fine." Tanika sighed. "She's a mess," she said. "She says you will not even talk to her." "There is nothing to talk about," I replied. "She wanted a separation. She got one." Tanika was quiet for a moment. "Look, I know she handled this badly," she said. "The text was wrong. The timing was wrong. But do you not think you were being a little harsh?" "Harsh would have been telling your spouse you were done in the middle of a business trip," I said. "I'm just being clear." There was another pause. "She did not mean for it to end like this," Tanika said. "She thought you two would have time to talk it through when you got back." "Did she tell you she was going to do this before she sent the text?" I asked. Silence stretched on the line. Finally, Tanika said, quietly, "She mentioned she was thinking about it." "When?" I asked. "Maybe a week before your conference," she said. I closed my eyes. "So she planned it," I said. "She waited until I was out of town, told everyone else, and then informed me last by text." "That was not confusion. That was a decision." "When you put it like that," Tanika began. "There is no other way to put it," I said. "She made a calculated choice. Now I am making mine." Tanika did not call again after that. The divorce papers were filed on Wednesday. On Thursday morning, Keisha was served at the apartment. Reggie texted me later that day. "She called me," he wrote, crying. "Asked if I could talk sense into you." I called him. "What did you say?" I asked. "I told her you're the clearest I have seen you in months," Reggie said. She hung up on me. I thanked him for standing by me and started focusing on the next step, moving into my own place. I found a decent one-bedroom apartment across town, smaller than what Keisha and I had shared, but bright and quiet. The rent was manageable on my single income. I signed a lease on a Saturday morning. The property manager handed me a set of keys and a welcome packet, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something small and unfamiliar. Hope. That Sunday, I went back to the old apartment one last time to pick up the rest of my belongings. Keisha was there, sitting on the couch with dark circles under her eyes. The living room looked emptier. Some of my things were gone. Some of hers were in disarray. "Can we please talk?" she asked as soon as I walked in. I set down the empty boxes and said, "There is nothing left to say." She stood, voice trembling. "I am sorry," she said. "Is that what you want to hear?" "I am sorry." I paused, looking at her. "What do you want from me, Keisha?" I asked. "You made your choice. I respected it. Now you are upset because I believed you." "I did not think you would just give up on us," she said. "I did not give up," I replied. "You did when you told everyone we were separated before telling me. When you posted pictures about freedom and letting go while I was in a hotel, trying to concentrate on work. When you turned our marriage into content for your wellness journey." She flinched again. "That is not fair," she said, her voice small. "You keep saying that," I replied. "But fairness has not been part of your decision-making for a while now." I loaded another box. "I still love you," she said suddenly. The words hung in the air. I set the box down slowly, then looked at her. "I do not love you anymore," I said quietly. "Maybe I did last week. But watching you panic only when you realized I was serious about leaving, watching you try to undo what you deliberately set in motion, I realized something. You did not want a separation to figure things out. You wanted permission to explore other options with a safety net waiting at home. And I am nobody's safety net." "That is not true," she whispered. "It does not matter now," I said. "The papers are filed. You have 2 weeks left on the lease. After that, Calvin needs the keys." I walked past her, carried the final box to my car, and closed the trunk. She stood in the doorway, watching me like someone watching a train pulling away. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove off without looking back. 3 days later, she sent one last message. "I signed the papers," she wrote. "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a moment, then locked my phone without responding. Happiness was not the right word for what I felt. It was not joy. It was not revenge. It was a quiet certainty that I had done what I needed to do. She had wanted her freedom. Now she had it in full, permanent form. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. No contested issues. No drawn-out court battles. She kept her car and her student loans. I kept mine. We split what remained of our savings after legal fees. It was quick, clean, surgically efficient. Life moved on. One Saturday, I ran into Tanika at a grocery store. She looked surprised to see me and slightly uncomfortable, but she stopped by my cart. "How have you been?" she asked. "Good," I said. "You?" "Fine," she replied. "I just want you to know she is struggling. She had to move back in with our parents. She lost her job last month." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant in an abstract way, the way you might feel sorry about a distant acquaintance's bad luck. Tanika studied my face. "You do not seem sorry," she said. I shrugged. "I'm not happy about it," I replied, "but I am not responsible for it either." She made her choices. Tanika nodded slowly. "She really did care about you," she said. "You know that, right?" "Maybe," I said. "But if she did, it was not enough to talk to me before blowing up our marriage. Caring is not enough if you do not act like it." Tanika exhaled. "Fair enough," she said. "Take care of yourself, Corey." "You too," I said, and we parted ways between the aisles. Life did not transform overnight. There were quiet evenings in my new place when I sat on the couch staring at the wall, feeling the ghost of our old routines. There were mornings when I woke up and instinctively reached for the other side of the bed before remembering it was empty. But slowly, my days filled with new patterns. Work picked up. My boss gave me a lead role on a new project as recognition for my consistency during the chaos. I accepted without fanfare and threw myself into the challenge. Reggie and I grabbed dinner one evening at a restaurant near my new apartment. We ate, talked about sports and work, and, for a long stretch, my divorce did not come up at all. As we walked back to the parking lot, he glanced at me. "You seem different," he said. "In a good way." I raised an eyebrow. "How so?" I asked. "Lighter," he said. "Like you were carrying something heavy for a long time and finally put it down." I nodded slowly. "Turns out cutting loose something that is dragging you under will do that," I said. He lifted his glass earlier that night and had said, "To knowing your worth." I had clinked mine against his and answered, "To knowing when to walk away." A few weeks later, I got a message from an unfamiliar number late one evening. "Hey," it read. "It is me. I just wanted to say I am sorry for everything. I hope you're doing well." There was no name, but I did not need one. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, feeling completely calm. Then I deleted it without replying. There was nothing left to discuss. She had ended our marriage with a text message. I had spent months showing her that I believed what she wrote. People talk about closure like it is a conversation, a final talk where everything gets explained and forgiven. Sometimes closure is much quieter. Sometimes it is simply moving forward and refusing to look back. 6 months after the divorce, I was settled into my new place, reconnecting with friends I had neglected, investing in hobbies I'd set aside. My life was not perfect, but it was mine. No games. No carefully staged narratives. No wondering whether I was someone's backup plan while they tried on different versions of themselves. At a company event one night, an old colleague who had heard about the divorce asked how I was doing. We were standing by a tall table with small plates of appetizers neither of us was really eating. "Honestly," I said after a moment, "it turned out to be the best decision I never made." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" I took a sip of my drink. "She announced the separation," I said. "I just made it permanent." He laughed, shook his head, and clapped me lightly on the shoulder. As I drove home that night, city lights sliding past the windshield, I thought about that first message in the conference room in Atlanta. "Just for your information, I told everyone we were separated for now." Those words had detonated the life I thought I had. But they had also cleared space for a life where I was not an optional extra in my own marriage. She had wanted for now a pause she could control. In the end, I gave her forever, and in doing so, I gave myself something better, a clean slate and the freedom to build a future with someone who would never need a wellness retreat to decide whether they wanted me. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.